Good morning, everyone. Good morning, students. How was your day and the last week? And I'm sure you all would be practicing the concepts, the theory, and also the sums relating to the topic. Now, the topic that we have to start today is employee cost. And yes, I remember some part of material is left out, but I think we'll first take up labor today, which comparatively is a very smaller chapter. And I'll check permission with BOS. If required, we can add one more session or at least 1.5 hour session to complete the material part. Yes. So let me first start with the doubts before I start with anything new. So you all may unmute yourself. The doubt may be relating to anything in costing, and particularly if there is anything in material that you have a doubt. So somebody has put a message that you have some doubt. Yes, beta. Hardik, go ahead. Even others?
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, beta. Tell me.
Sir, in question number 17, the cost of product is not given, sir, in
Hardik,
worksheets.
wait. Your voice is not clear to me.
Sir, in the sheet that you have provided, the questions, extra questions, in that
Mhm.
question number 17, the cost of product is not given. So, sir, what we should take the cost of product?
Cost of product is not given in question number 70. Okay, I'll go through that. In the meantime, if anybody else has a question, you may please put your question.
And, sir, can you please solve the study material case scenario also the new one?
See, beta, there are so many things to be solved. I agree. But we have a very specific time schedule for our subjects. Let me check. I think we also have a specific revision session that will be starting from tomorrow. In that, we are going to cover majority questions only. I'll just request a technical team whether these students can also join those sessions, because anyways, it is available to everyone, right? So students, I think you all can just check with the schedule. If I'm not wrong, it is starting tomorrow itself. So I'll request you all that you all can join that so that we can even take up the doubts over there, because that session is specifically only for the practical aspect. So if you all don't mind, I'll request that if there is any specific doubt relating to practicals, if you all can join tomorrow, I think it would be much better. Tomorrow or whenever the schedule is. Yes, Lalit.
मॉर्निंग सर।
Good morning.
जो लास्ट लास्ट लेक्चर में जो आपने सम्स करवाए थे तो उसमें 30 नंबर का एक सम्स है। उसमें लिखा है कि सर हाउ उसमें पार्ट बी एडवाइस हाउ फ्रीक्वेंटली शुड ऑर्डर फॉर द प्रोग्राम
Be placed. That is your question, na?
पार्ट
How
बी इज
frequently the order should be placed, right?
हाँ सर
Hello. Yeah. See,
हाँ
what
सर
is frequency? Sorry. Yeah. Should I speak? Okay. So, students, I was saying frequency whenever is asked, like I think Lalit asked this question. Ki, sir, the question is asking ki how frequently the order should be placed. So, whenever they are asking for frequency, what they are asking is the gap between the first order and the second order. So my answer would be the number of days. Now, how do I find out this number of days or frequency? Try to recall, in two sums, we have computed number of orders specifically. How do we find out number of orders? It is AR upon your order size. Generally, the answer that we find out order size is EOQ. So it is AR upon EOQ. This gives you your number of orders. So let us say my number of orders comes to 20 orders in a year. Now, how to find out frequency? Firstly, what is frequency? Frequency is the time gap between first order and the second order. So once you have placed the first order out, after that, how many days there will be a gap before you place the second order? This is the frequency. Now, how is this frequency calculated? 365 days upon this 20 orders. So understand the logic. See, don't go to learn the formulae. I always am a strong believer that we should not go for learning the formulae until and unless we are not able to understand anything. But here, all the formulae are conceptual. So what is the concept? Acha, I'm making an exception. The formula for the stock levels, maximum level, minimum level, at least I am not able to understand the exact concept because it is not that I'm not able to understand, it is that I'm not accepting what concepts they are giving. So other than that, all other formulas have some very logical concept. What are they? I'll tell you. Now, in this particular case, when they are asking for a frequency, and as I said, frequency is 365 days, that is for the year, divided by 20 orders, which is also for a year. So if you are going to place 20 orders in a year, then how frequently your orders would be placed? It is 365 days upon 20, which comes to roughly 18 something. So my answer would be frequency of order is 18 days, which means after every 18 days, I will place the next order. So that will become my frequency. Lalit, I hope I answered you. Okay. Then, yes, Hardik, I'll take your question. Sorry? Sorry?
थर्ड वाला पार्ट भी है ना, थर्ड वाला पार्ट, इफ द कंपनी प्रपोज टू रेशनलाइज प्लेसमेंट ऑफ ऑर्डर्स ऑन क्वार्टरली बेसिस व्हाट परसेंटेज ऑफ द डिस्काउंट?
Fine. See, Satish, in that case, the answer is similar to our previous question 11, if you remember. In that question, we computed how much extra discount you want so that you will switch from EOQ to that level. So here also, indirectly, see, I mentioned in the previous lecture, our institute is testing two major skills. One is the technical skill or the computational skill, but at the same time, the interpretational skills as to how well you are able to interpret the question, because that is a very important skill in your practical professional life. Now, when they are asking if you want to rationalize, what does it mean? Now you want to place order quarterly. That is, you want to place only 4 orders in a year. But we already have concluded that EOQ is going to be better. EOQ is giving me a lower cost. Now, if I want to switch from ordering EOQ to ordering quarterly, definitely there will be some extra cost. Try to recall that 11 sum that we saw. Now, I will switch from EOQ to any other level when this extra cost is reduced. And how it will be reduced? By demanding discount. So simply what you will do is, now they want, in your question, they want you to find out the discount. How will you find out the discount? First, find out the difference in the cost. Total cost of EOQ, total cost of if the order is placed quarterly. Now, in this case, whatever is the difference is your extra cost. In some sums, we have found out that this is the extra forward say adopting EOQ. Now, this extra cost divided by the annual purchase cost into 100 will give you the discount. And that is the answer, Satish. Satish, I hope I have made the answer clear.
Sir, what is difference between, sir? Hello?
Yeah.
Sir, what is difference between material control and inventory control? Some little difference you...
See, I explained, beta. I'll just repeat short because I have to go ahead.
Okay.
Material control covers control on all the 3 functions of material, that is on the purchasing part, the storage part, the consumption part. So it is more of a procedural control on all the functions of material. Inventory control is specifically aimed at ensuring that you always cover the optimum inventory, neither too high, neither too low. So it is more concerned with the storage part. And for that, you have the practical approaches, the practical techniques. So material control is more control over the functions part. Inventory control is more control over the inventory maintenance and the operation part. Fine?
Okay, sir.
Yes, I think Bhumika had raised hand after Satish. Bhumika?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, beta. Tell me.
सर वो मुझे ना वो EOQ कंपैरिजन वाला हमने कल लास्ट वीक क्वेश्चन करवाया था। तो उसमें से ना जो सेकंड वाला पॉइंट है, इफ द मिनिमम लॉट साइज टू बी सप्लाइड, वो अमाउंट कैसे निकलेगा?
If the minimum lot size?
Lot size.
Complete your question.
To be supplied is 100 or 500, or
But it is just that question was a practice question in which I have given you multiple options. If you want to supply 100, if you want to supply 500, if you want to supply 1000, if you want to supply 1500, I think you're talking about that question, right? So basically, beta, you have to find out total cost of all these options. So that basically question was aimed at giving you a practice of how to compute the total cost of different options. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is same like how we solve so many sums. Prepare that table where we are showing order size, purchase cost, ordering cost, carrying cost, and make a total. Bhumika, I hope I have answered your question, right? Yes, beta Omkar.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, beta. Please tell me.
Sir, what is the logic behind this shortage treatment in store ledger?
See, if you all
Treatment
remember,
of shortage by FIFO method.
Okay, method is secondary. See, if you all remember, we discussed this point also, treatment of losses. What is firstly the meaning of the word treatment? Because this question is asked nearly in all chapters of costing. You are asked to give or suggest the treatment. So first understand the meaning of this question when they are asking you to give or suggest treatment. Treatment means कि आप उस cost का क्या करोगे? Now what it means? So you have incurred some cost. That cost has become a loss. Now, when a cost becomes a loss, so let us say I've purchased 100 kgs of material by spending rupees 5,000 because the price of the material is 50. Out of that material of 100 kgs, let us say 5 kgs are lost either during storage or during transit because of fire or anything. Now, when I have lost those 5 kgs, definitely there is some cost involved of that 5 kgs, which is at the rate of rupees 50, 250 rupees. Now, this 250, since that much material is lost, this cost, please understand, will remain unabsorbed. Now I'm using intentionally a technical word because again, this will be continued further in costing. What is unabsorbed? Uncharged. What is uncharged? If you'll remember, charging we discussed in the initial first two lectures when we were discussing basic concepts. Charging means that out of the total material cost, I will be putting some cost to product A, I will be putting some cost to product B so that I can find out how much is the total cost of A, B, C, D. When I'm doing this, it is called as costing. And how I'm doing this? Out of total material cost, whatever material is consumed for A, that much quantity and cost I charge to A. Charge means out of total material, that much I assign or I put in front of A. Similarly, whatever material is used for B, I'll put it in front of B. This is what is, in simple words, charging. Now this this material, what I have purchased 100 kgs, some quantity I charge to product A, some quantity I charge to product B, but whatever is lost, in my example, 5 kgs, that much material, obviously, since it is lost, will not be charged anywhere. So that much material cost will lie in your books as unabsorbed. So remember this word, students, unabsorbed. We'll be using this further at a very continuous level. So what is unabsorbed? Unabsorbed means that cost which you could not charge to any product. Now, why here we could not charge this cost? Because it has become a loss. So you can simply visualize out of 100 kgs of material purchase, I have charged whatever quantities used for product A, product B, product C, product D. This is to be charged because it is a loss. This unabsorbed cost, how will you close your books at the end of the year? You'll have to do something of this cost. Just visualize your T format of account. So on the debit side of our material account, you have 100 kgs. I'm intentionally using the word kgs and not amount because it is easy to visualize physical quantities. So on my debit side of this material account, I have 100 kgs. But on the credit side, I have only 95 kgs, which is charged, assuming there is no stock. This 5 kgs is the balance still lying in the material account debit side as unabsorbed cost. Why? Because it is a loss. Now, at the end of the year, I have to charge it somewhere because this is also a cost in your accounting sense. It is a nominal amount, a nominal account, and nominal account has to be closed. Now, I have to transfer this amount somewhere, either to products, either to costing P&L, either to overheads. That is what is treatment. And if you remember, I had explained this treatment also. If this loss is abnormal, the amount is charged to costing P&L. If it is normal of direct material, it is charged to that particular product where it is used. If it is normal, but it is not of direct material, it will be charged to overheads. If you remember, we had understood it in the form of a chart, and somebody had raised question about that also. I hope I could answer you better.
Sir, loss and shortage are same, or they are totally different?
See, loss can be for varied reasons. So loss is more generic and more broader concept. Out of that, shortage is one type of loss. So what is shortage? You purchase 100, but you issued only 98. Two, you could not issue. Why? Because it is not present in your stock. Now, there could be reasons why there is shortage. It may be because of some natural reasons like evaporation, etc. It may be because of theft. Those are the reasons for shortage, right? Or it may be because of wrong accounting. You have actually issued it, but while accounting, you did not do proper accounting. So that is shown as a difference. So loss is a broader category. Out of that, one type of loss is shortage. Fine. And the answer remains same whether you are treating a shortage loss or you are treating any other loss. Because in costing, the answer for treatment of any loss is same. Abnormal goes to costing P&L. Normal of direct is charged to the product. Normal of indirect is charged to overheads. Yes,
Understood.
Anish.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam.
Sir, I have a doubt in question number 13 of the sheet that you have given.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, in that they have given the handling cost plus freight.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we need to add that both the things to
Yes.
get organized?
See, in materials, this concept of EOQ and total costs, we find out three costs. One is purchase cost, which is by multiplying the AR into the purchase price. Then you have ordering cost, then you have carrying cost. Ordering cost is made up of both these costs. So one is that is handling cost, one is the freight or the transport cost. So if they are given separately, you'll add up to find out your cost per order. Similarly, in the same sum, if you see, carrying cost is also given in two parts. One is the storage cost, one is the interest. So if you remember when I was explaining the concept, I said that there are three components included in the carrying cost. One is the warehousing or the storage cost. Second is the losses that are incurred during storage. And third is the interest component. So in the same question, if you see carrying cost, two different components are given. Finance cost, that is interest, and the other is the storage cost. You have to add both the things to find out your carrying cost. Yes, Hardik.
Sir, question number 19, there is a fourth part that is written what should be the inventory level immediately before the material order is received.
Correct.
And sir, what is this?
See, if you all remember, for explaining you all the concept of average stock when we were discussing EOQ, I had given you a graph like this where this was changing like this. I purchase, my quantity is maximum, then it is coming down daily because I'm consuming. Once it is zero, another material is received. Again, it goes to the maximum level, it comes down. If you remember that graph, it was like this. That was the graph relating to my stock position, daily stock position. And from that, we derived the formula of average stock, which came to be order size, which is the maximum stock upon, maximum order, maximum stock, which is your order size plus 0 upon 2. So effectively, our average stock becomes order size upon 2, if you'll remember that concept. Now, in the same concept, try to understand what is the question. The question says, what will be your inventory level? What will be your inventory level immediately at the time when the material order is received? Sai Charan, you're wrong here. Please understand, students. If the question is, what is your material level at the point of the time when the order is placed? The answer is ROL. So what is ROL? We discuss ROL. It is the reorder level. It is the level of stock when you will place the order. But in your question, Beda, it is not the stock level that they have asked when the order is placed, because that answer we know, it is ROL. Your question is, what will be the stock level when the stock which you ordered is received? There are two answers. First answer, if you are not maintaining any buffer stock, if you are not maintaining any safety stock. So just visualize that diagram. What will happen? As per that diagram, your material is received. Yes, Sai Charan, now you're right. Your material is received when the present stock becomes 0. So answer to your question is, what is ideally the stock level when the material is received? There are two answers. First, If there is no safety stock that you maintain, it is 0. Second answer, if you maintain safety stock, what is the safety stock? It is a stock that you always carry as buffer. It will be utilized only in exceptional circumstances when your material order would be late. Yes, Aniruddha, you are very correct, brother. So when the material order is very late, so in that particular case, the buffer will be used. Otherwise, you will always maintain the buffer. In that particular case, so if in the question they are giving that you maintain buffer stock or safety stock, then your answer beta is what will be the stock level ideally when the material is received? It will not be 0 now because you always maintain the buffer. So in that case, your answer is the safety stock or the buffer stock. So please pay attention to the question, students. Don't make haste. Read the question, understand what is asked. Then only your answer will be correct.
Sir, I have also written the safety stock, but the question I searched on Google, it was written ROL. That was I was
See, beta.
confirming.
See, beta. Don't confirm with Google, because Google is not the person who will give you all technically correct answers.
Yes.
So you may
I
go
also
to your model.
Yes, sir. I have also written the safety stock only.
So you go to beta our past exam MCQs or MTP, RTP. In that you will find this question, and in that question you will find the same answer. It is the stock level which is maintained. I mean to say the question is what is the stock level when the material order is received? So there are two answers. If no safety stock is maintained, it is 0. If safety stock is maintained, it is safety stock. Yes, Nisar.
Sir,
Yeah.
one more
Sir, good morning.
clarification.
Good morning.
Sir.
Wait, beta. Yes, you
Sir,
complete.
Sai Kiran. Sir, Sai Kiran.
Sir, please wait. Sai, please wait. Yes, beta. You complete
Sir.
your question. Yeah.
Sir, in the question 21 also, assume that the present stock level is 200 packets and that no buffer stock are kept. When should the next order be placed?
Vapas, read the question. When should the next order be placed? There are two questions. When should the next order be placed? And when the next order will be received? If the question is when should the next order be placed, it is always ROL. Now
Okay,
you
sir.
find out first ROL. Now in that question, ROL comes to 200 only. So what is the question? Your present level is 200. And when should the next order be placed? Whenever the question is when should the next order be placed, the answer is always ROL. You find out ROL, it comes to 200 only. Then your answer would be, since ROL is 200, that is the level when the order is placed. And my present stock is also 200. It means I'm at ROL only. So my answer is order immediately. In the same question, beta, the another subpart says, the next subpart immediately after this is, what if your
600.
present stock level is 600? Same question. When should the next order be placed? Answer also remains same at ROL. I find out ROL which is 200, but my present stock is 600. Now, when will I place the next order? When my 600 becomes 200, correct? Because I place order at ROL. Now, in this case, you have to find out for 600 becoming 200, 400 units should have been consumed. So you'll find out how much time is required to consume the 400 units. That will be your answer. So if it comes to 6 days, for example, your answer will be order will be placed after 6 days when the present stock level will come down to 200. That is our ROL. So there are the first part of the answer is since you are at 200, which is ROL, answer is place order immediately. In the second part of the question, since you are at 600, when order will be placed? When it will be coming down to 200, which is ROL. So you'll find out the number of days which will be required to make 600 200. In other words, you'll find out the days for consuming 400 units.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
yes.
Sir,
Yes,
Sai Kiran. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Sir, my clarification is the holding cost includes interest, insurance, obsolescence, and storage costs. My doubt is whether this holding cost interest is there, whether it includes interest on purchase also or not.
What is interest on purchase? Can you explain, beta?
For purchase of material, we are availing credit. Whether that credit interest is included in here or not, only here carrying cost interest is included.
See, understand one thing. When you are purchasing on credit, that is you are purchasing by paying extra price. See, what is interest on credit? There is no supplier which will charge interest. He generally what he does, if he is allowing credit,
not
he will increase the price.
For purchasing a material, we are taking credit and purchasing the material.
So when you are saying taking credit, it means you mean to say loan?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So answer is same. It is, understand one thing. When you are purchasing material by taking loan, The interest is what we cover over here in carrying cost. Because understand one thing, Sai Kiran, this interest is a cost to the extent this material is held in stock. Because once it is held in stock, you are holding it, it will be consumed at a later date, converted into your sales, and again the money will come back. This will be a cycle. But for the time you have to keep it held in your godown, that much period of interest becomes part of carrying cost.
So both it will cover.
Both means?
Both purchase cost and carrying cost, both it will cover.
See, understand one thing, beta. Again, purchase cost, there is no separate interest. See, you have taken loan for buying the goods. So it is your working capital loan.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now, when this working capital loan will be recycled, when this quantity gets converted into sales and the money is received after selling it, this is your working capital cycle. So today I purchase material and it will get converted into finished goods. It will get sold and I'll recover the money from my customer. If this whole is my working capital cycle, out of this whole working capital cycle, whatever period I am holding the stock in my godown, that much period interest becomes part of carrying cost.
Okay, okay.
So there are no two different interests, beta.
Okay.
Yes, Nisar. Yes, Nisar.
So under level-wise discount, where we are making the schedule, does the answer change if we take order quantity based on average or the minimum of the purchase range?
No, generally no. Mathematically, even though the total cost comes different because your order size is different, so as per the formula, the ordering cost, carrying cost will change. However, at least the number of sums I have solved till date, it will be more than 100 at least of different types. In all these sums, I have found that whether you take minimum, whether you take average, the ultimate answer of which is the minimum level remains the same, more or less.
Okay, so because in question 14, like you had solved it based on minimum level during the class. I solved it on average and I'm getting the answer different.
No, beta. The total cost is different that you are getting in the last column.
Yes.
Right? But if you check which is the least of these total costs, if I'm not wrong, it will be same.
So you got the answer for 300 to 500 level.
Last level, right?
Yes, and my answer was 200 to 300, and I've cross-checked all the calculations.
So maybe that's why I'm saying generally it will not be different. But yes, since ultimately it is mathematics, the answer may be different. But both are acceptable. But both are acceptable.
Okay, both are acceptable.
Both are acceptable.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
And secondly, sir, if the question does not clarify that if we are supposed to take the change in price while calculating carrying cost, so are we supposed to assume the change in price for carrying cost or it stays the same?
See, understand one thing, Nisar. When you are saying the question does not clarifies about change in price, but something would have given in the sum regarding that with change in level, the price will change. Either they give different prices as what we saw in our sum, or they will give you the percentage discount as it is there in the next sum. So if my original price is 100 and with the increase in level, firstly the discount is 2%, then 5%, then 10%. So it means you have to find out the new price after discount. Because that is the main difference in the level-wise sum. Otherwise, what is changing in level-wise sum, right?
No, I meant to ask for carrying cost. Like for example, in question 16, they have given
understood.
the basic
Okay. So they have not mentioned whether discount affects carrying costs or not. That is your question, right? So in this, Nisar, the simple answer is if nothing is given, you have to mention an assumption. Generally, the assumption is discount affects carrying cost. It means you will also reduce the carrying cost alongside the discount.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll take the last question which was asked at the start. I don't remember the question number which was referred, but somebody asked me a question. Sir, in this particular question, the purchase price is not given. It was again a level-wise discount question. The answer is, right, somebody asked, right?
Sir,
Hardik. So Hardik, now I'm answering your question. In that question, students, the 17 number question which Hardik has raised out of the sheet which I shared last time. Again, it is a level-wise discount sum. So the table remains same. You have to find out the different levels, the prices, the ordering costs, everything. But the problem is, in that particular case, you cannot find out annual purchase cost. Reason is because the purchase price is missing. Now, in that particular case, where the purchase price itself is missing, how will you find out the purchase cost? Interestingly, that is a very special sum which I found out in one of the reference books which I was referring few years back. In that question, They have not given purchase price, but still you can solve that somehow. Let me say, assume price is rupees 10 per kg. So what will be my annual purchase cost? Let us say my AR is 10,000 quantity and the purchase price is 10. So my annual purchase cost comes to 1 lakh. Now just listen to me carefully. In all the levels that are given in the question, my annual purchase cost will be always 1 lakh. The only difference that will be there is the purchase cost will be reduced by the discount that I'm getting at different levels. So let us say at first level discount is nil, so purchase cost will remain 1 lakh. In the second level, let us say the discount is 200, so the purchase cost will be 1 lakh minus 200. Third level, the discount is 1000, so purchase cost will be 1 lakh minus 1000. It means at all levels, purchase cost in total is same. What is changing is only discount. If you all have understood this, now I'll answer this question. Now in this particular question, the point or the problem is that you are not given this price of rupees 10, which I assumed, and you need not assume that price because it is not required. I just gave that to explain you the idea. Now what is the idea? If my purchase cost will be 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh, same, only what will change is discount. Why not I solve this sum in a different manner by taking the column as annual purchase cost, which we take. Instead of that, I will take the column as discount. Now what will happen? Since I am not knowing the purchase price, I don't know this 1 lakh as the annual purchase cost, no problem. But this 1 lakh is going to remain constant at all levels. What will change is only the discount. So let me put the column of discount instead of annual purchase cost. And in the discount column, I'll show the discount figures negative. So at the first level where there is no discount, it will be nil. In the second level, when the discount is 200, I'll show 200 minus. In the third level, I'll show 500 minus. In the fourth level, I'll show 1000 minus. Now, what will be my total cost? It is purchase plus ordering plus carrying. Ordering plus carrying, I will add. Purchase, I don't have. Instead of that, I have written discount, which is negative. So ordering plus carrying minus discount, this will be your cost. When you compare these costs, wherever you have total cost minimum, that will be your answer. And I'm sure you'll be able to understand this mathematically also, that had I been given this price of 10 per kg, I would have got annual cost of 1 lakh. Still my total would have, not obviously the total would have remained same, but the effect of comparative totals would have been same, because in all the totals, 1 lakh would have remained constant. What would have changed is only the discount. So in this sum, beta Hardik, you will be solving it by taking discount, ordering cost, carrying cost, total of this in which discount will be deducted. I hope I was able to make things clear to everyone. Right, student? Please don't ask me to again explain the formula. You can go back to the previous lectures to understand the working of the formula, the derivation of the formula. So sorry, I cannot explain again the formula because that would be too time consuming and it will take up the time of the present lecture. Fine. So students, let us start with our today's deliberation. Now our today's deliberation, just a minute, please. Just give me a minute, please. So students, we start with our next topic, that is the labor chapter or the employee cost chapter. Now, if you remember, when we started discussing materials chapter, I mentioned that when we are going to study these chapters of material, labor or expenses, that is overheads, we are going to study three things: the accounting part, the controlling part, the charging part. So the same thing that we discussed about material, the same thing applies to labor also. And the same thing we'll study in the chapter of overheads. You have to do accounting, you have to find out controlling, and you have to find out charging. Now here, I will be explaining the charging of material and labor together. That is why I did not cover it in the material chapter, because conceptually both are same. And when you understand similar concepts together, it is easy to understand, easy to remember. But before that, when we are talking about labor or employee, there is something very special about labor, which is not present in material. See, broadly, we have three types of expense: material, labor, and expenses, which is for your facilities. So it is like rent, it is like depreciation. So all these expenses, which is not relating to employee, which is not relating to material or purchases, all other expenses comes under the category of expense. Now, we studied material, labor we are studying right now. Expense is named as overheads. Reason is, see, every cost has two parts. We studied this in our first lecture, direct, indirect. So you have direct material, direct labor, indirect labor, and direct expense, indirect expense. Now in this, all the indirect portion of material, labor, and expense, when they are added, that total is called as overheads. Now, why you do not have the chapter of expenses differently? Because if you read the name of this chapter, which we are studying, it is employee and direct expense. So obviously now what is left, if they have covered direct expense here, what is left is only the indirect expense. And if you see, majorly out of all the expenses that we are incurring, majorly all these expense on depreciation, rent, repair, maintenance, all this which is expense, that is for facilities, is always indirect majorly. And that is why instead of taking the chapter of expenses, the chapter which we are going to cover next week is on overheads. Now, this is just to give you a broad idea, so that as we are progressing with the subject, you're also able to consolidate your concepts. Now, coming to my present topic of employee and direct expense. Again, direct expense is very rare. Very few direct expenses are there. It may be direct material, direct labor, but direct expense is very rare. So, direct expense, what it covers, let me first explain before I go to the labor chapter in detail. So direct expense basically means those expenses, firstly, which are neither material, neither employee related. So they are relating to facility, and which are easily identifiable with your product, with your cost object. So generally the expenses that are covered are mainly royalty, because royalty is something which you pay per unit of production or per unit of your output or sales. So out of all expenses, indirect expenses, generally the most common item is royalty, and there are very few items which get covered in direct expense. That is why this item is not explained much, or this concept is not explained much separately. Plus, in many books or in many sums, instead of direct expense, they are using another generic term, that is chargeable expense. So just remember, students, that direct expense is also named as chargeable expense in many books and many questions or sums. Fine. And the practical example of direct expense is royalty. There could be few more examples, but this is the most common one. Now I move on to the chapter of the concept of employee, that is labor. And as all other costs, here also you have two types of labor, direct and indirect. But before I go to that, let me explain you something more interesting. Out of your other costs, that is material, expense, out of these three, labor or employee is a cost which may give you disproportionate output. What do I mean by disproportionate output? When you input material 100 kgs, you will never get output more than 100 kgs. But when you input labor 1 hour, in some cases you may get 100 units as output, in some cases you may get 50 units as output, in some cases you may get 150 units as output. because labor is something which is always very personal, because labor is you and me. Right now, what I'm giving is a labor. So this is employee cost. Whatever is my cost is employee cost. Please understand this. So understanding employee cost is understanding that it is your cost. Tomorrow, when you will also work either in some organization as employee or in your own business as owner, as entrepreneur, your time cost is the employee cost. And every employee's efficiency is different. Every employee's motivation level is different. And the same person who is today less skilled, less experienced, less motivated, over a period after training and spending time and giving more time and focus on the particular job, the person will become more expertise, more skilled, more experienced. So today, if the person is giving output of 150, after a few years, it may go to 100 and it may even go to 150. This is what I'm saying disproportionate. What I mean by disproportionate is, like in case of material, 100 can only give 100 or lower depending upon wastage. But in case of labor, at times there is no such limit. It purely depends upon your efficiency, your skill, your focus, your motivation level, etc. And this is something very crucial when we understand the employee cost and its costing treatment. So here, see how I have started. This is also given in your module. So the special characteristics about labor is affected by behavioral issues. So if a person is motivated, if a person is focused, now apply to yourself. See, for material, I was always saying go to kitchen. For labor, whatever we are studying, I'll say look at yourself. It will be easy to understand concepts of labor. So for material, for every concept, I was taking you to kitchen. For labor, for every concept, I'll take you to yourself. Now, if you are motivated, if you are focused, the study time or whatever you are doing, your efficiency or output would be more. The day you are not feeling that much motivated, the day you are feeling low, you may be very knowledgeable, you may be very skilled, but that day your output is less. Similarly, the more you are experienced in that particular work, like you started solving the first sum, second sum, initially it took more time. As you progressed, as the concepts became more clear, as you practice more, the same sum could be solved in lesser number of times, or in other words, in that much time, you could solve more number of sums. So this is how behavioral things impact the labor. And as mentioned in the second point, labor can increase. Labor means the output of labor can be increased by better supervision. There is a spelling mistake, and motivation and training. So with better training, better motivation, and also timely supervision, the output of the employees can be increased. So there are two types of labor, direct, indirect. Fine. Now we have to study these three things: accounting, controlling, and charging. So let us start with the accounting. Now there is something very interesting in labor accounting. In labor accounting, there are two methods of recording labor time. One is the timekeeping. One is the time booking. Achha, students, let me make the we are saying accounting. Accounting does not only means passing the journal entries. That is much later stage in accounting. If you remember the definition of accounting that you studied in standard 11, it is recording, classifying, analyzing everything, and it ends with reporting, right? So accounting always starts with first recording the transaction. And recording the transaction requires different documents, and it is recorded at different stages. Like if you recall the material accounting that we discussed, we started material accounting. The first step was estimating how much material would be required. The second step was comparing with stock. The third step was finding out how much I need to purchase. Then the fourth step was identifying the suppliers from the market, online, offline, both, and placing the order. And then the material would come, and then the first journal entry of purchase would be passed. So the purchase entry comes very later. Similarly in labor, the labor entry generally is what you have till date passed the labor entry as wages, salaries to cash bank, right? But let me tell you, students, this is not the complete labor entry. We are also going to study the labor entry in this chapter, which will be actually, or rather it is actually part of your accounting subject. But unfortunately, I haven't seen any book from 11th standard to even MCOM level, which is explaining in any of the accounting subjects the labor entry. So it is best that you are studying this costing subject, because costing labor or employee chapter gives you the accounting entry for labor, which is not this. Because tomorrow when you will be joining any corporate, if you are handling the accounts, you will have to paste that entry. If you are auditing the accounts, you have to check that entry. So you should know what is the entry, but I'll come to entry a bit later on. So how is accounting happening for labor? Again, I repeat, accounting starts with recording. Now, what is recording of labor? Recording of labor means recording the time for which the worker is present, the time for which the worker is working. This is what is accounting for labor or recording the labor. Now understand this. The journal entry of this wages salary will come at a very later stage. Now there are two stages at which this accounting is done. These are not options. These are two different methods of accounting and they are both required. First is called as timekeeping. The other is called as time booking. Now what is timekeeping and what is time booking? Please understand. When I'm recording your attendance, it is timekeeping. So when I record your in time and out time, that is the time at which you came in, let us say 8 a.m. in the morning, and you left at 4 p.m. in the evening. So once I record this time, I come to know that, okay, you are present in my factory for 8 hours, which is the daily shift. So recording the in time and the out time is time keeping attendance. Now we all have seen attendance right from our childhood, from our school days till college, and even now in your offices, once you join your articleship. Nowadays, we have those biometric, the thumb scanners. Many times you have the retina scanner, you have the swipe cards. All these are for recording attendance. Earlier in school days, the only recording of attendance was present absent. But for labor purposes, the recording is of the time at which you come and at which you go out, so that my total labor hours present is computed or is determined, so that my total wages would be computed. Because how wages would be computed? If you are present for 8 hours in a day, and let us say your per hour wage is rupees 200, then it will be 1600 rupees your daily wages. So depending upon the time for which you are present, I would be able to calculate your wages. So see, what are the objectives and purposes of this timekeeping? First is determining wages. Similarly, by recording this time, I will also be able to determine whether you have worked overtime. How it will happen? So let us say on a particular day, your out time is 6 p.m. Now the normal is 8 to 4, but you are working up to 6 p.m. So I know that, okay, on this particular day, 2 hours you have worked overtime. Now why I need to know overtime separately? Because we'll study later, the overtime wage rate is also higher. Plus for control purposes also overtime has to be determined separately. So this will help in determining overtime. Similarly, it will help in ascertaining idle time. How? I'll explain a bit later. More important, it is also important for controlling labor. How it is important for controlling labor? I'll say it is very important for discipline. See, if there is no proper in time, out time, if people are coming, going at any time, firstly, it disturbs my business activity. Second, there is no proper discipline. So it is difficult to control and manage the workers. So if you are maintaining proper in time, out time, it helps in maintaining proper discipline. It helps in controlling labor. You also would come to know if he is working less or if he is working more, so that you can take appropriate actions. So disciplinary purpose also I explained. Distribution of overheads. Let me park this question for the overheads chapter. You'll understand in the overheads chapter what is distribution of overheads. All right. Now, before I explain further timekeeping, let me also just give you a brief of time booking so that you'll understand the difference between the two. So firstly, timekeeping was recording the in time, out time. What is time booking? Continuing the same example. So you came to the factory at 8 a.m. in the morning. Now, my timekeeping recorded in time, out time. My time booking will record how you spend this time from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So I will now maintain that, okay, from 8 to 8:10, first 10 minutes was spent in changing, because you come here, you dress up, you put the worker dress or whatever specific dress is allotted to you for that particular work, maybe some safety gadgets. Also, you start the machine. So when you start the machine, there is some warming up time. Like when I start my laptop, Earlier, it used to take 2 to 3 minutes. Nowadays, it is fraction of a second. Then I go to that particular mail where I have this link. I'll click on the link. The link will start. After the link starting the Zoom will also take few seconds. So all these things making me ready for this lecture, let us say 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is my first time, which is, you can say, lost. It is a type of a wastage or a loss of labor time. But this is also recorded in the time booking. So time booking is recording how you have spent this. Now 8:10, I started my first activity. From 8:10 to, let us say, 10:30, I took lecture of this topic of CMA. So in my time booking sheet, I will record that, okay, 8:10 to 10:30, I took CMA lecture. Then 10:30 to 11, I had a break. This will again be reported. Again, 11 to 2, I had some meeting with some client. Again, 2 to 2:30, I had my lunch break. Then 2:30 to 4, I was doing some research on the particular client work. Now, this is how I utilize my time from 8 to 4. Now, in this particular example, you will find that in time booking, I am recording. Again, it is a recording step only, but now I'm recording the time which I'm spending on different things which I did between the 8 to 4 time I was present in the factory. Now, how is this going to affect me? This is going to affect me like this. So see, similar example of time booking. Now, what is the objective and purpose of time booking? It is done to ensure that the time for which the worker is present is properly utilized. So you have reported 8 to 4 in your timekeeping. But if you are not doing time booking, you will not come to know whether the worker is utilizing this time properly or not. In other words, you will find here in timekeeping, ascertaining idle time. Ascertaining idle time is done by both timekeeping and time booking. Timekeeping gives you the in time, out time. Time booking gives you the details of how the time is spent. Now, wherever I was not doing any productive work, like here, like here, like here, this is reported as idle. So what is idle time? The time when I'm present in the factory, but I'm not doing any productive work for some or the other reason. It may be my mistake or it may be part and parcel of the activity. Like breaks are required. There is no option. You will need a break between your two lectures or between your two type of work, or maybe if the lecture is extensive, between the lecture you'll need some small short break. So this is idle time. So understand this. Time booking helps me identify if I'm utilizing the time effectively or not. So this is the first purpose of time booking. Most important, it helps me in ascertaining cost of each job. That is, it helps me in doing costing. It helps me in doing charging. Now you'll ask, sir, how? See, again, I was just explaining charging today at the while answering questions. See, when I'm preparing cost sheet, let us say I am preparing cost sheet for one of my clients, ABC Corp, who has given me an assignment of something relating to costing of his business. Now, when I have to do costing for this particular client, my cost sheet will find out if I've spent any material, if I've spent any labor, if I've spent any expense for this client. Now, how will I charge material? I have to identify how much quantity of material is consumed. So let us say I have consumed some papers for him. I have consumed any material item. I'll identify that. I'll multiply it by the charging price. This I'm going to explain today for both material and labor. So I identify the quantity consumed. I multiply it by the charging price. I'll come to know, okay, this is the direct material cost. Similarly, for direct labor, to charge direct labor, to do costing, I need to identify how much hours I have spent on this particular client's work, and then multiplied again by the charging price, I will get my direct labor cost that I have to charge to this client. How is this hours found out? This hours is found out from here. Now here, let us say this was the slot on which I was doing some research work for this particular client. So I will come to know that, okay, I've utilized 1.5 hours. So here, while doing costing of this particular client, that is while charging cost to him, I will say that, okay, my hours consumed or utilized for this particular client work is 1.5 hours. I'll multiply it by my charging price. I'll charge him 5,000 rupees. Are you getting this? So this is what is the charging. Material, labor, everything is charged by finding out two things. One is identify the quantity of material, labor that is consumed for that particular work. Find out the charging price, multiply the two, you get your cost. This is how costing is done. This is how charging is done in very simple words. So it helps me in ascertaining the cost of each job, as I just explained. That is, it is helping me in costing that job, or it is helping me in charging my cost to that particular job. And then it provides a basis for recording the details of his time. That is how the time the employee has spent. And this helps me in further controlling purposes and all. So this is broadly the difference between timekeeping and time booking. Both are recording time, but in a different manner. Now they have explained in theory further methods. I'll just explain orally. For timekeeping, what are the methods? One is our traditional old method that we have seen in the school time, that is the attendance register method, which only records the present absent, which is of no use here. In factories, the attendance register is recording the in time, out time. See here, only present absent is of no use. So here, whatever time keeping is done, it is recording both in time, out time. So here also you have attendance register, but now these are very old methods. Then after attendance register, there was a time when they used to have a time recording clock. What is a time recording clock? There was a clock installed at the entrance and you were given one card. It is also called as a punch card. So when you came, you entered that punch card into one socket given in that clock, and the clock used to print the time. So when you are coming, you will punch the card. When you are going again, you will punch the card. So your time of entry and exit is recorded by the clock by punching the time. This was done to ensure that there is no bias involved, because when in attendance register some human is recording, there is a chances of fraud, there is a chances of mistake, etc. To avoid that, they shifted to clock. Now that is also old method. Now we have all biometrics. We have all the latest technology, either it is the swipe card or your thumb or your retina scan, etc. So these are some timekeeping methods. What are the time booking methods? Now time booking requires maintaining data like this. So it could be done only by using a card or a sheet. So how it happens? There are two types of cards broadly. One is the job card and the other is the employee card. What is the difference? First, you understand what is a card. Card is a piece of paper. Same as a sheet, it is a piece of paper. If it is an employee card, you are given one card which you will carry in your pocket. Now see, this happens in all big corporates. So let us say tomorrow you are joining any big corporate as an employee, they will be giving you this card and they will be actually asking you to maintain this data. Now see, please understand, this card may not be a physical card. It may be something in your laptop, but daily you have to fill in the data in that particular card or in that particular sheet so that your superior or your manager or your boss comes to know how you utilize your day throughout. So he will come to know that, okay, after coming 10 minutes was your time lost because you came, you started the PC, you logged in by putting in your login credentials. It took time to connect you to the server. So 10 minutes were gone in that. Then you started working on one of the client's case. You did some research. Fine. That much time you recorded by putting the name of that client and the nature of the work. Then you took a break, which was the break assigned. Then again, you started working on some other client's work where you were doing some calculation for that particular client. Again, that client's name and the nature of work is mentioned. This is how in big corporates, I'm talking about chartered accountants who are working in big corporate firms. Over there, they are punching their time in this time sheet, in this employee sheet, which helps their superior or bosses to keep a track of what they are doing. Also, it helps them in identifying how many man hours of yours was utilized on particular client's assignment, so that that much time they can charge to the client in the form of the fees. Another type of card is a job card. This is generally maintained by the supervisor of that job. So instead of giving card to the employee, the card is given to the supervisor. So let us say I am your team leader. Now I'm intentionally taking example of service sector so that you can understand. So let us say I'm team leader. Under me, there are 10 articles or there are 10 chartered accountants working under me. So I am given a timesheet or this particular card, which is called as the job card, where I will be maintaining details that on the job which I'm handling, of which I'm the team leader. Normally it is called as a project, which I'm handling. I will record the time of employee A, employee B, employee C, that how much time they spent today on this particular project of mine. Because there is a possibility that these employees are working for some part of the day on my project, remaining part they may be working on some other project. So I will be recording the time each employee has spent on my project, on my work. So where the time details are maintained job wise, it is called as the job time sheet or the job card. Where it is maintained employee wise, it is called as the employee card or the employee cost sheet. So these are the concepts, theoretical part relating to timekeeping, time booking. So let me go to the doubts. Let us do one thing now. Instead of me reading the chat, I'll request you all to y'all please put your doubts directly. So if any of you has doubts, please raise your doubts. Students, if you have doubts, please raise the doubts. Hello, students. Those who have put something in chat, kindly raise your doubts so that I can answer you directly. Okay, in the chat box also, I don't find any significant question. So let me proceed then. Okay, so somebody has said that you have understood. Okay, fine. So then let me go ahead. Yes, this sheet will be shared as I shared last time, the material sheet. Students, let us move ahead. Now, as you can see, I repeat, we have to understand three things broadly. One is the accounting part, which we just discussed. One is the controlling part. One is the charging part. Controlling is very simple in labor chapter. If you remember in material, the biggest portion of material chapter was relating to control. In labor chapter, the concept relating to control is very easy and it is very small. And it is 1.5 page in your module. When we talk about labor control, it does not means control on total labor cost. It means controlling labor cost per unit. Please understand this. So when I'm talking about labor cost control, firstly, we are not referring to controlling total costs. Why this has to be emphasized? Because when you talk about material cost control, overheads cost control, it is always controlling the total material cost, total overheads cost. But for labor, for employee, the scenario is different. Why? Reason is, as I explained at the start, in case of labor, labor is affected by behavioral issue. Most important, the output can be increased or the other one can be decreased depending upon the level of supervision, motivation, or the level of focus, etc. Now, in this particular case, this point of labor cost per unit becomes very significant. How? I'll explain. When I say I have to control total labor costs, which is not the case, but let us say if I say I have to control total labor costs, what I will do, I will try to minimize the payment that I'm doing to employees. So I will start paying lesser so that my total labor cost is within control, but this will be disastrous. It will be counterproductive because if you don't reward your employees properly, one, either they will not work properly, they will start wasting time, they will start postponing their work, they will start doing time pass during the timing of the office. Second, there is a possibility that good employees may leave you and join some other organization who is paying them better. So in either case, it will be a loss for your organization. So that is why labor cost control says don't focus on reducing your total wage bill. Even if this goes up, it is fine. You have to ensure that your labor cost per unit is maintained as low as possible. This is labor control, and this can be done despite of total labor cost going up. In fact, labor cost control says focus on training of employees, focus on maintaining their spirits and motivation at a highest level, and spend on their training, spend on giving them better facilities, give them good remuneration. This may increase your total wage bill. But what will happen once the employee is motivated, once the employee feel that they are one with your organization, they will put their heart out in working. Their productivity, their output will increase. And the moment the output is also increasing, the total labor cost when divided by output will give you labor cost per unit, which may be lower. So despite of increasing your total labor cost by paying them extra, spending on their facilities, spending on their training, taking them out somewhere or on some vacation for 1 or 2 days at a distant place, all these things may add to your labor cost bill. But this will keep them motivated. Spending on their training will improve their skill. They will be retained in your organization. So you'll have more number of skilled and experienced workers. And the moment all these things happen, the output by them also increases. And we have already discussed at the start, it may increase disproportionately. What is disproportionate? Whatever you are spending on them, more than that, the output is increased. And once this starts happening, when you divide your total cost, labor cost by output, Acha, it is not only that this will reduce your labor cost, it will also reduce your overheads costs, which are generally fixed, like rent, depreciation. If within the same span of time, if you are motivated, you're trained, your experience, your skilled worker is giving more output, your rent cost per unit is reduced. Your entire overheads cost per unit is reduced. So you may achieve overall cost savings and overall cost betterment. That is why they say that you have to focus more on maintaining or reducing the labor cost per unit and not total. In fact, they are saying for total, you may even increase the labor bill. That is not a problem, right? I hope I have made this clear. So this is the difference in labor cost control versus all other cost control. Now, I move on to the most interesting part of this chapter, where I will also compare it with your material chapter, which I had intentionally left out because I want you to explain it with par with labor or at the same time with labor. Yes, somebody, if has any questions, you may unmute and ask. Don't put in the chat box. As far as possible, when I give you this question answer time, please raise the question because it is more easy for me to understand your query also. And also it is better for you to get the answer instantly. Sir, please explain how rent overheads cost will decrease. Please, beta, listen to my explanation carefully. Rent, Aditya, is never going to reduce in total. Total rent will remain same. In fact, every year it will increase. But if your output is increasing, the rent cost per unit of your output will reduce. And practically understand, Aditya, my per unit cost is always important. If I'm able to produce more number of pen in the same given period of time, then my per unit rent will be lower. Per unit depreciation and per unit all overheads would get lowered. So effectively, my total cost per unit will get lowered. So this is how I will be benefited if I'm able to keep my employees motivated and keep them on their toes and work efficiently for my organization. Now, I go to a very crucial and a very important point, that is charging. Now, I just explained here that how charging happens. We find out we have this broad cost sheet format. This is how you get your total cost. We discussed this in our first lecture. Overheads are further divided to production, administration, selling. That is fine. But how do you charge? Your direct costs like direct material, direct labor, direct expense are charged by finding out two things. One is the quantity consumed for this and multiplying it by the charging price of this. Now, quantity consumed for material, you will get from your material records where you are maintaining the records of how much material is being consumed for each product. Similarly, for labor, we just discussed by doing the time booking, you will find out how much labor time is consumed. And for direct expense like royalty, which is generally per unit of output, the number of units you have produced, that is the quantity which you take over here. So this quantity record you will get from your accounting part, that is from the records that you are maintaining. Generally, this is not having a skill of cost accountant so much. The cost accountant skill, or the skill that we are working on, is this: finding out the charging price. So students, today I'll explain you a very important concept in costing, that is the charging price. Because to find out cost, you have to charge each expense to your product, and each expense is charged to your product like this, finding out the quantity of that item that you are using in that product, like material, labor, expense, and multiplying it by the charging price. Now, what is this charging price? Whether it is for material, labor, even for overheads, the answer is same. Charging price, in very simple words, is your total cost. So let us say if I'm finding material charging price, I'll take total material cost. Let us say I'm finding out labor charging price, I'll take total labor cost. And then dividing it by normal units, dividing it by normal hours. Now, this concept of normal units, normal hours is the most interesting part. But first, let me explain you the numerator. When I say total material cost, what do I mean? I mean purchase cost, ordering cost, carrying cost, which we have already seen in the material chapter. So all expenses that you are incurring for the material, that becomes part of total material cost. So one is the purchase cost. But see, purchase cost is independently nothing. If you recall, even in purchase, we have many items which are incurred. So let me take you to that particular part in material also. So parallelly, you'll understand what I'm trying to explain. Yes. See, I'm talking about this. Finding out the charging price. Now, for charging price, in the numerator, you need total material cost. Technically, it is called as a total landed cost of material. So in simple words, it is total material cost. Technically, it is landed cost. Now, how do we find out this? Broadly, there are three types of cost in material. One is the purchase, the other is the ordering, the other is the carrying. We have already studied this. But now breaking up this, purchase cost is again made up of so many things. The price, that is the purchase price into quantity, plus the duties and taxes of which credit is not available. Then packing material, packing costs, generally all these are incurred by your supplier and he adds all these items in the bill. This together becomes your annual or total purchase cost. Then comes your ordering cost, which includes transportation, which includes loading, unloading, etc. Right? And then comes your carrying cost, which will include all costs relating to your carrying, that is warehousing, etc. When all these costs are added up, it becomes your total landed cost. However, in this, you deduct certain things. If the supplier is giving discount on the price, you subtract the discount. We have seen so many bills where they first show the price and then they might subtract the discount. So if your bill is like that, so accordingly discount is deducted. If you have added certain duties, taxes of which credit is available, you will reduce that because that will never be part of cost. If certain materials are returned or the containers which he has added here in packing or packaging, if you are returning that, that will be reduced. All these things net will become your numerator, that is the total material cost or the landed cost. Yes, Srini. Srinivas, please tell me.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Very good morning. Please tell me.
Sir, the price per unit is similar to standard price or it's an actual price?
Good question. See, again, this depends upon when we are finding out this. Generally, costing is done at the start on estimated basis. So when you are doing costing, all these things are on estimated basis. But remember one thing, we are doing costing, we are also doing cost accounting. Cost accounting or accounting is always done post, that is after that transaction has happened. So when you're doing something post, for accounting purposes, if the same thing is computed, it will be done on actual basis. So the difference is when you are doing this, if it is done on a pre basis, which is normally done, it will always be taking estimates. That is your standard price. If it is done after things have happened, and after that you are finding out this, it will be done using the actual figures. Right, Srini?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. Now, students, I take you all to labor. Similar to material, even in labor, the charging price is computed in the same manner. How is this charging price computed? The charging price is computed by taking in the numerator your total labor cost, which is normally called as CTC, that is cost to the company. Now, what is this total labor cost? Total labor cost is made up of, again, different components. First is the basic wages or salary. Then comes all types of allowance. So simply, when you study the income tax subject, in that you have the chapter of salaries. So whatever you include in salary, that is what is also the cost to the company, right? So in simple words, whatever total amount the company is spending on you, maybe giving you in money form or not, it makes no difference. But whatever company is spending on you, that is the labor cost to company. That is why the word is labor cost to company, because it is the amount that the company is spending on you. So it is your wages, it is your allowances, it is your bonus incentives. Now all these are monetary. However, there are many non-monetary costs, like the cost which the company or the organization is incurring in providing facility. So let us say they are providing you accommodation, they are providing you a vehicle or some transport facility, they are spending on your food. Many times they spend on the education of your children, also on travel, etc. All these are facilities which are called as perquisites. So another component of labor cost is the amount spent by the organization or the employer on your facilities. And then comes statutory payments, where the employer has to compulsorily deposit something in your provident fund, in your ESIC, in different types of schemes and funds which are statutorily applicable. So whatever is the amount employer is putting out of his pocket, which I call as employer's contribution. So generally in this schemes, two people contribute. The employee is also contributing out of his or her pocket. That is anyways not cost to company, but whatever the company has to add, whatever amount the company is contributing out of its pocket, that is the cost to company. So similar to material, see, conceptually both are same. Numerator will have the total material cost, numerator will have the total labor cost, numerator will have the total overheads cost. All this is on estimated basis, generally because we find out this charging rate at the start. So in the numerator, you find out total cost. Now, it may be material labor, that makes no difference. Now in the denominator, you find out normal. So for material, you find out normal material units. For labor, you find out normal productive labor hours. Now, what is this concept of normal? This is again important. So I come back to this part. So for finding out charging price, numerator is total cost. We understood what is that. It is the total cost incurred by the organization on that component, maybe material or labor. In denominator, you take normal. Now, this is something very important and interesting. Entire costing is dependent on this, I will say. Estimating what is normal. So just try to recall. I explained this concept of normal in the immediate previous lecture where I was trying to explain what is normal quantity. What is normal? Normal is something which you expect to happen regularly, frequently. So I was giving example of sleeping. I will say if somebody asks me, sir, how much you sleep? I'll say I sleep 6 hours. When I say 6 hours, I'm always talking about normal, which means normally in a year, if you take the records of my sleep, you will find that majority of the days, around 300 days, I'm sleeping for 6 hours. In the remaining days, 65 days, at times I may sleep 3-4 hours when I'm overburdened. At times I may even sleep 8 to 10 hours, depending upon in which phase I am. But generally, normally, my normal sleep is 6 hours. That is what is the concept of normal. In costing, we always go normal whenever we are making estimates, because normal is something what is going to happen regularly. So obviously that is the most perfect estimate. Now, how is this normal computed? It will be computed in case of material as the quantity that you order minus what are the losses expected in transportation, in storage. All these quantity of losses, the normal, that is the expected loss, when you deduct, you get the normal quantity of material which is expected. I'll give you a very practical example. Let us say I'm into the business of preparing apple juice. So we have these canned juices. So I'm into the business of preparing apple juice. Now I want to find out what is my material cost of that apple juice. I will find out my purchase cost, adjusting all things, taxes for which credit is not available, packing cost, transport cost, loading cost, etc., 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 deducting all the benefits like returns, etc., etc. I get the numerator, which is the total landed cost of material. In denominator, let us say if I order 1000 units, I know out of 1000, 50 kgs, out of 1000 kgs order, 50 will be lost, damaged, deteriorated, destroyed, stolen during transit. So by the time the apples are coming from Kashmir to my factory, 50 units will be destroyed. 50 units will be damaged. Somebody would take one piece and eat while it is in transportation. I know this is my normal loss in transit. Similarly, I know that by the time it reaches and once I keep it in storage and by the time I consume, I will still be losing 50 quantities, maybe again because of deterioration or loading, unloading, damage, etc. So I know that out of 1000 units which I order, I will be practically, this word is again associated with normal, practical. So normally or practically, I know that out of 1000, 10% broadly is all my losses, transport loss, storage loss, etc. So I know that I would be practically or normally using only 900 units in production out of 1000. So whatever is my cost of purchasing, storing, handling 1000 units of apples, that will be divided by 900 to get my charging price of apples. Yes, Hardik. Hardik. Hardik, you raise your hand. Unmute. Yes, speak.
Sir, in in normal loss, will we consider abnormal loss as well?
No. See, costing is done on estimated basis. What you estimate or expect will only be considered, and you cannot estimate abnormal. So always normal is only what is adjusted while doing any costing calculation. So here also when I'm adjusting the losses, I will, or rather I'll say I only can adjust the normal losses because that is only what can be expected, estimated. I don't know what is abnormal. So how can I adjust it? Right, Bada?
Okay, sir. And sir, one more doubt. In sir, total cost of labor, sir, which we were seeing, sir, in that there was a deductions written. So, sir, those deductions that will be given to the employee or that the employer will avail, which will we will minus.
There's no deduction between labor.
So there are deductions of net
See, this is
wages.
another thing, but you are discussing about this. This is something different. I'm not yet on this part. I'm only on
Okay,
this
sir.
part, total labor and the normal productive hours. I'm yet to explain this. I've explained this. Here, there is no
Okay, sir.
deduction, beta.
Okay, sir.
Yes, beta, need a break. I understand, but Divya, let me complete. I know you may require some idle time in between, but let me just complete the concept in a flow. I'll give you a break. So, I hope everybody understood how charging price for material is computed. Numerator is total cost. Denominator is the normal quantity after adjusting the normal cost. This is the mother concept of costing and charging. So whenever you have to charge, I already explained, the charging or costing happens like this. You identify quantity, you identify the charging price. Quantity generally you get from records, or generally the engineering part, people give you the quantity when estimates has to be done. But the pricing part is what is done by the commerce people like us. We are the experts of the commercial part. So we are called upon always to do the charging. And how do we do the charging? By finding out the charging price. Charging price, if I have to put it in Hindi, we normally use it in our day-to-day words or day-to-day language. कि ये हमें कितने में पड़ा. We always use this in our daily language, that how much cost I'm actually incurring on it. That is what is the concept of charging price. And how do we find out that? Take the total cost, all expenses related to that item, divided by normal units. Normal units means the unit you are expecting that will be available after adjusting normal losses. Then what you get is your per unit price. Okay, मेरे को ये कितने में पड़ा? So I may have purchased the apples for rupees 500 a kg, but my charging price comes to rupees 625 per kg. After adding other cost, after deducting normal loss in denominator, so my charging price comes to 625 per kg. So when I am doing costing of my product, whatever material, whatever apples I have used in a particular type of my apple syrup or apple juice, I will be charging it at the rate of 625 per kg of material. Same thing comes with charging price of labor. How do I find out charging price of labor? I will find out total labor cost in numerator, which is the salary, which is the allowance, which is the bonus and incentives. This is the normal, this is the monetary item. Plus, I will find out all non-monetary benefits like the perquisites, that is the amount which I'm spending on the facilities, and also the statutory payments which the employer has to pay out of his pocket. That is, employer has to put in the employees fund, provident fund, ESIC fund, etc. Again, this is the total labor cost to the company, which is the numerator. Divided by this, I take the normal hours. Now, what is normal productive hours for labor? Again, it is my total hours available minus normal idle time. So in this example of time booking, which I was explaining here, I know that my shift is of 8 hours. But considering this first time which is lost in me changing or getting ready or the machine getting ready, so it is the first initial time which is lost and there is no mistake of anyone. It is expected. This loss will happen. So it is normal. Similarly, the break which I am going to take. So as a human and even as a machine, you require breaks. Even machine cannot be used continuously. It will require break for maintenance. It will require break because after maybe continuous usage, the machine may get heated up. So you have to give it a break so that it can cool down and again then you can start using it. All these are the normal idle time. What is normal idle time? It is the time which cannot be used productively, but the reasons are genuine. There is no wastage, there is no inefficiency. It is part and parcel. So similar to material where you have normal losses during transit, during production, during storage, in the similar fashion for labor also, for machines also, because let us say we are using machines, there will be some time which will be lost, either in the form of the starting time, which is lost for making the machine ready for production, worker getting ready for production, which is generally called as the setup time. Like as I explained, when I have to start any session, I require around 5-7 minutes. My laptop will start. I will connect to the portal. The Zoom meeting will start. We'll do some basic trial and error. All this is required to make it ready for that particular work. That is what is the initial normal idle time, which is the setup time. Similarly, like how somebody is asking for a break, and if you are working for the whole day, definitely you'll require breaks. So those are the normal breaks, either the short breaks or the longer breaks for food and all. All these are normal idle time. So maybe I may be present for 8 hours, but I may require in between 1.5 hours for all these things. Even I require time for changing from one job to another. So let us say after this lecture, I have to take some other lecture. Even if I'm taking continuously without a break, for changing from one lecture to another, I will close the Zoom meeting. I'll complete the formalities. I'll go to the next Zoom link. I will go there again. I'll start. Again, the time loss between changing between one job to another is also the normal idle time. So again, this is the time which is expected, which will be unproductive, which will lost. So I'll get 6.5 hours, which is the normal productive hours. So again, the total cost divided by the normal productive hours will give me the charging price. So maybe I may be actually paying the employee at the rate of 200 per hour. But after adding all these things and dividing it by the normal idle time, normal productive hours, I may get my charging rate as rupees 525 per hour. So when I'm charging the labor cost per hour, I will be valuing at 525. So when I'm charging to a customer his time or her time, I will multiply the time spent by that employee on that customer's work by valuing it at 525 per hour. So this is what is the charging price of labor. I hope you all understood the charging price concept. I'll take doubts, Divya, and then maybe we can go for a short break. Yes, there are some doubts here. Why statutory expenses? These anyways, company has to pay. For example, creche facility for employee kids. Yes, you're right. So see, why these costs have to be added? Understand one thing. See, these are compulsory costs, beta. But the point is when you are spending them in the pockets of the company, Neeraj, there is some load. The company is paying out of its pocket. And once it is paying out of its pocket, it has to be recovered from the customer. How it will be recovered? Once this cost becomes part of your charging price by the formula which we discussed, automatically when you are valuing the customer's job, you will charge the customer by this price. So you will include all these expenses, whether statutory or not. And that will be added or included in your charging price, which will be recovered from your customer. Fine. Mithun asks, sir, will the labor costs considering general holidays? Yes, when I'm dividing it by denominator beta, I've used total hours minus normal idle time. So when I'm saying total hours, it means the total hours for which the company is going to be operational, which will be after removing all the holidays, right? Sir, if abnormal loss occurs, how can we consider that? See, Ramya, abnormal loss is never a part of costing. It is a part of cost accounting. I'll explain this in the later stage when we come to the point of idle time and overtime, right? So I'll explain how this is done, but it will never come in this costing part which we just discussed, because this is the costing part which you are doing on estimated basis, Ramya. So when you are doing something on estimated basis, there is no scope of including the abnormal losses, because that you cannot estimate or expect. Yashashwini, sir, when an employee forgot to record or punch their time, at that time, what kind of measures are taken? See, but it is a practical issue. So generally, then you are penalized. Maybe your salary may be deducted and all, but that is a one-time measure, and generally you will not do that again. It may happen once or twice by mistake, right? Yes, Sai Kiran. Ask your doubt. Sai?
Sir, what is the difference between setup and maintenance permission?
See, setup, as I explained, is the time initially required to start the machine or make it ready for the work. I'm giving you a practical example. In the morning, if I have to start your lecture, I have to first put on my laptop. I have to make all these systems ready, the writing pad and everything. I have to start my internet. Then I have to log into that particular site from where I will be connected to you. Again, after logging in, it may take some time. Again, after I log in, we have to do some demo trial at the start key, whether my mic is working, whether the video is proper, etc., etc. This may take 10 to 15 minutes. So in the similar fashion, again, now let us say you go to kitchen, your mummy wants to start preparing food for you. Immediately the cooking will not start. First, the preparatory time is required, cleaning everything, keeping
Yes,
the
sir.
making the utensils ready for the work. So take real life examples, you'll understand everything. That is a setup time. What is maintenance? Maintenance is if something is going wrong, after that you are doing maintenance, or generally in big factories, it is always the pre-maintenance. Pre-maintenance is like your servicing of vehicle. So periodically, you send your vehicle for servicing. In the same fashion, periodically, every machine, everything in the factory will be under maintenance so that there is no breakdown in future. So that much time the machine is not working. So that is the maintenance time. Sai, I hope you understood the difference.
So setup is happening daily, maintenance is happening periodically. Am I correct?
Periodically. Perfect. So now see, again, for maintenance, it depends upon the nature of machine. Certain machines are such that every day they will require oiling, greasing. So that may happen every day also. But generally, it is not every day, every time.
But setup daily.
Setup, because without setup, you cannot start working. Na? Setup is the first thing that you do to start working. Right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Chalo, now I'll honor Divya's request, or rather everybody's request who may not have put it officially. We'll take a small break, 5 minutes. Right? So 5 minutes break. Please ensure that you are in time so that we can discuss more things today. Thank you. come back, our idle time, normal idle time is, let us not make it abnormal. Okay. So let me take you back to the very crucial, important concept. So we have to find out this charging price, whether it is for material, whether it is for labor, whether it is for overheads. The concept is same. It is the mother formula. I call it as the mother formula. What is the mother formula? In numerator, you take the total cost of that item. In denominator, you take the quantity of that item, adjusting it by the normal loss of that particular quantity. If it is material, it will be quantity of material. If it is labor, it is labor hours, etc. Now, in this formula, if you see, there is one more thing which is left. What is that one more thing? That one more thing is in numerator, we deduct something which is the scrap value of normal loss. Now, this generally happens in material only. There is only scrap value for material. So in numerator, when I'm saying I'll take total cost here in my formula also, you will see that when I'm taking total cost, that is the landed cost of material, I have adjusted for all these returns. That is okay. I have also deducted scrap value of normal loss. Now, what is this scrap value of normal loss? So we all know that when we are consuming material, some portion of the material is the normal wastage, which is normal wastage in production. Like a simple real life practical example. I am making some furniture item. So for making a furniture item, if somebody have seen furniture, you require a ply, which is generally of 8 by 4 size. Now, when you are cutting this ply in different sizes of your requirement, there is a possibility some portion of ply, the cut piece, would be left out, and it is so small that it may not be usable for any furniture purpose. Similarly, while cutting these or while finishing these, small pieces of material may be left out. And even in case of ply, there is something which is the bhusa. In Hindi and Marathi and Gujarati, it is the bhusa. It is that powder of the wood portion that is coming out when you are making any furniture item. Similarly, let us say I'm into garments. So you come to my shop, you purchase 2.5 meters of cloth for shirt. But when I'm making the shirt out of this 2.5 meters, again, there would be some cut pieces. These all cut pieces, which are my losses of material during production, these cut pieces, these small pieces of wood, even the bhusa, if they are sellable in the market, I realize some price by selling it. It may be very nominal, very meager price. But whatever I am realizing it, that much is my revenue. Now, if that value is attributable to the normal loss portion, so normal loss is adjusted in your cost, in your charging price in two sense. One, in the denominator, you are reducing it, the quantity you are reducing it while finding out the denominator, that is normal units. In the similar fashion, even in the numerator, you are reducing the scrap value that you are getting out of selling this normal units. Again, all these things are done on estimated basis. So coming back to the formula, in the numerator, when I'm saying total material cost, it will be after adjusting the scrap value of normal loss. So in the denominator, in the normal units also, I've adjusted the normal loss quantity. In the numerator also, I'll adjust the scrap value of this normal loss, and then I will get effectively the charging price. So this is how you find out charging price of material labor, and on the similar fashion, you also find out charging price of direct expense and overheads. I hope this very crucial concept is clear, and this is the mother formula. This formula is applied to every element of cost for which you are finding out the charging price. Only the exact names will change. Here, quantity may be quantity of material, quantity of product, or it may be hours of labor. Similarly, total cost may have different things depending upon what is that particular item of cost. This is very clear. This is the most important concept. Now, I again go back to labor in particular. So when I'm computing the charging price, we have to also take care of some special items of labor like the labor turnover, idle time, overtime. Today I'll discuss on this, and tomorrow we'll go to the last part in labor, that is the labor remuneration system. Tomorrow means in the next lecture, right? Divya has asked me, sir, how can we identify scrap value? Again, Divya, estimated basis. See, first you computed your scrap units denominator. Now, when you know that the scrap units are going to be 10%, let us say 10%, maybe 5, 10, 20, depending upon whatever it is. So whatever is the quantity, in the similar fashion, we can expect at what price it will get sold. Like when you can expect the purchase cost, you can expect the ordering cost, you can expect the carrying cost. Why cannot you expect the normal loss selling price? It is also available in the market. Ramya is asking, sir, is there any normal scrap value for labor? See, generally labor is intangible. So let us say some of my time is getting wasted, like I explained here. See, what is normal loss of labor? It is this time, then the break time, again the break time. How will I sell it? There is no possibility of selling the normal loss of labor. So practically, there is no scrap value. Yes, Vaishnavi, price of the scrap value will be market based. See, everything is market based. Even in your material cost, the purchase price is also market based. So even the scrap value is market based. You can always go to the market and check that if you have to sell pieces of wood or the cut pieces of your cloth, by at what price it will be getting sold, you will always have a available market price. So that becomes your estimate for valuing the scrap value of normal losses. Fine. Okay. Let me take you to this very interesting concept of turnover, idle time, overtime, right? Now, these are some important components of labor, and they have a bearing on your labor calculations, and also it is important when you are doing controlling, planning, etc. of labor. Okay, fine. Starting with the first concept of labor turnover. Now, as a student of accounts, whenever you come across this word turnover, I'm sure everybody will say, sir, turnover means sales. Fine. But that is a very limited meaning. It is a meaning of turnover qua accounts. It may not be applicable everywhere. See, turnover is a generic word which means this. Please pay attention. Turnover is this. Can you see this? Turn over, turn over, turn over. Now, what you understand from this? Turnover basically means movement, rotation. So when we talk about sales, why sales is called as turnover? Please understand, turnover does not mean sales. Sales is one of the factors which represent turnover. So why sales is used to represent turnover? Because sales shows the movement of your business. If I ask you, भाई धंधा कैसा चल रहा है, बिजनेस कैसा चल रहा है, आप बोलोगे सर रोज का गल्ला 1 लाख रुपए का है. So this is how you express how is the movement of business going. Business कैसा चल रहा है, it is always represented by sales. कि सर रोज का business इतना है. That is what is the meaning of turnover. Turnover means movement. Now, this concept is there for everything. It may be for material, it may be for labor. Even when you go to financial management subject, you'll have debtors turnover ratio, creditors turnover ratio. So if you remember turnover as sales, all your answers will be wrong. Now, what is material turnover? Material turnover is again this. What is this in material? You purchase material, it gets consumed, zero. You again purchase, again you consume, it is zero. It is the movement of material. Purchasing, it adds up quantity. Then as you go on consuming, it reduces quantity. That is why in material, generally the word used is inventory turnover. So what is inventory turnover? You purchase, your inventory goes up. As the day passes and you start consuming over the period of time, the inventory comes down. So it is again movement of material. It is the cycle by which purchase, consumption happens. And then you find out the ratio. Now this ratio is also explained in your financial management. So I've intentionally not covered here, but there is a formula. It is your raw material consumed upon your average stock. But we did not touch up that because that will be anyways more properly covered in your financial management chapter. So this is what is material turnover. Now coming to what is labor turnover. Labor turnover is again this. Turnover means movement. Please remember and understand this. What is movement of labor? Movement of labor means labor comes to your organization, labor leaves your organization. Labor comes to your organization, labor leaves your organization. So it is the movement of labor in and out of your organization. That is labor turnover. So what is labor turnover? It has been defined as it is the change in the composition of labor. Now, most important, it is saying change. Change can happen by outward going also and by inward coming also. So it is the change in your labor composition. Now, we have theory and practical both. Let me take you to the practical part. You find out labor turnover ratio. That is the rate at which it is rotating or moving. And generally, this rate is expressed as a percentage. Percentage of what? Percentage of your total labor force. But the total labor force is changing. Then what labor force you will consider for finding out the percentage? It is the average. So you can see in the formula, in the denominator, you have the average. And then in the numerator, you have some figure. So this divided by your total number, which is the average, into 100 gives you the percentage of change. Now to understand the practical part, let me give you first example of how the figures are computed. So you have opening number of employees. So you have your labor force at the start of the year. Let us say it is 2000. Then during the year, there would be some plus and minus. Minus would be the people who are leaving the organization or who are getting separated from the organization. The leaving can be for different reasons. It may be retirement, it may be death, it may be you have thrown out somebody for disciplinary reasons, it may be somebody has left for some better option, job options, and whatever. There could be multiple reasons of people leaving your organization. Let us say during the year 250 employees left. So that would be obviously subtracted. What is the addition? Addition is the replacement. So whoever got separated or left, you obviously have to replace that. So replacement means the people coming in place of those who left. Now, it is not necessary that during the year the entire vacancies would be filled in. So maybe you could add only 220 out of 250. Maybe remaining would be happening in the next year. But for this particular year, the replacement is 220. And then interestingly, there is something which may not happen regularly, but it may happen, that is new recruits. Now, this will happen whenever you are expanding or some new project comes to you, and for that project, you will require additional number of workers and your regular number of workers. So you add new positions, you add new workers. So this is what is new recruits. Let us say during the year, the new recruits were 80. That is the new positions created for which you had new workers is 80. Now this plus minus gives you the closing number of employees. So you had 2000 at the start. During the year, 250 left for various reasons. They separated from your organization. So 1750, and 1750 plus 300 is. Now we all know how we find out average. Average is opening plus closing upon 2. There are two averages, two ways. One is maximum plus minimum, or it is opening plus closing. Here they take opening plus closing. So my average number of workers is 2025 workers. Now this average is used to compute all these things, right? Now, what are the different formulae for computing labor turnover rate? It is very simple. The name suggests the name itself and the formula. The first is the separation method. If I go by the separation method, out of my total workforce, how many have separated? 250. So my formula would be 250. That is number of workers separated upon average 2025 into 100. This percentage will be my percentage of workers who have separated. Similarly, if I have to find it out by the replacement method, how is the replacement method happening? Replacement is I replace during the year 220 workers. So 220 have been replaced out of the average of 2025 into 100. So I'll get a percentage. Then there is something called as flux. Flux is what? It is the total change. Now the total change is expressed by taking the workers separated. So in my example 250 plus also the workers replaced. In my example 220. The total of this in the numerator comes to 470 upon 2025 into 100. This is how you get your formula of labor turnover rate by the flux method. Now in this, you can very well see that in the flux method, my percentage is mathematically the total of this. So mathematically, the total of this will be my total flux percentage. Then there is one more method of calculating, that is the accession method. What is accession? Accession is derived from the word to access. To access something means to reach something, to land at something. Now, accession is defined as the number of workers replaced plus the new recruit. So total, how many people reached to my organization? The replacement 220 they came, plus also the new recruit 80. So my accessions is 300 out of 2025 into 100. This percentage will be my answer as per the accessions. And whenever there is accession, that is when new people have also joined. In such a case, your flux will change because now the total rate of change will be number of workers separated, which was 250 plus the number of accessions 300. So this will be 550, 550 upon 2025 into 100. So this is how you compute the labor turnover rate. This practical is the most easiest part in entire costing. I believe it so. Yes, there are a few more topics which are easy, but this is one of the most easiest part. But remember, students, in order that everything goes right, first make this working. Now, why this working is required? Because at our inter level, you may get questions which are of missing figures. What do I mean by missing figures? If you make this computation, you will find that something in the separation is missing. Why? Because let us say in the question they have given, now in the same example, if I change the data, they have already given closing number of workers also. And the closing number of workers given is, let us say 2020. Now, as per the data given in the question, you are given opening, you are given separated, you are given this. Achha, now when they will be giving this separated, they will be saying that 250 have left your organization maybe because of retirement, death, superannuation, something. But if you now match this, it is not matching with 220. There is more 5 which is required in separation. Only then it will match. Is it 5? No, not 5. 753. I think you require more 30, na? Yes. Now, this 30 is the missing figure. This 30, I will identify as more people who have separated or left for other reasons, which may not be specifically mentioned in the sum, because only then it will match with closing of 220. Otherwise, my closing should have been 250. But if the sum is already giving 220, it means there is some missing number, which is generally of leaving the organization for some other reasons like disciplinary, marriage in case of females, or somebody has got incapacitated, whatever. There could be multiple reasons for leaving the organization. So this would be missing. So you make this calculation first before you land up with the formula and the working part. I hope this is clear to all. What are the questions? Garima said, sir, we also call as repetition process. Okay, I call it as turnover, that is movement. Sir, what is composition of labor? Beta, composition means, Shahid, कि मेरे number of workers में कितने workers हैं? That is composition. Composition means who all are included. That is what is composition. Sir, what is the use of this labor turnover concept? Good question, beta. Omkar. See, it is not a concept for labor charging. It is a concept for labor controlling. So labor control के लिए labor turnover concept use होता है, because if your turnover ratio is high, it shows that somewhere your labor policies are wrong. More people are leaving. That is why you require more people joining, and it always leads to increase in your cost. What are those costs that we'll study in theory? Hardik have explained flux. Please go through it again. So Ramya is asking, sir, if they ask to calculate labor turnover under flux method, which formula will be used? Very good question, Ramya. So students, which formula to be used? If the question has accession also, accession means even new recruits are given, you should calculate by asking again, what is flux? So flux is nothing but it is the total change, total, which includes the outgoing also, which includes the incoming also. So that is what is flux. So flux is a like a Latin word or such type of word. So flux is also a word, not a Latin word. I'm just giving an example how we have Latin or parallel words in French and Latin which are used in our common language. Similarly, flux is such a word which is used to represent total, right? Vidya, yes, notes will be shared. So I hope I've answered all the questions which is relevant for practical. Now let me take you to the theory aspect, which is also important because you get theory questions. Now, what could be the causes of turnover? What could be the causes people are leaving? Answer is simple. Now here, most importantly for theory, they have divided it into controllable, uncontrollable, because as I answered one of the questions, this concept of labor turnover is from the control perspective. Yes. So, as I said, labor turnover is more used for the control part. That is why in theory, when they are identifying or giving you the reasons for labor turnover, they have bifurcated into controllable, uncontrollable. Now see, apply your minds. Don't read. My sir used to tell me, Vishal, if you want to get knowledge, don't read what is given in the books. Read the heading. Like the heading is what could be the causes, and try to first make your judgment. Try to make your guesswork as to what could be the answer for that, and then read what is given in the book. It will add to your observational skills. It will add to your understanding skills. And most important, students, when you do it by this method, you retain more. So if I say that try to do this for all future concepts, try to first read only the heading. Don't read anything further given in the book or module. Try to first figure out what could be. And then when you read, it will be adding more value to you. So what are the causes of labor turnover? See, why people will leave? Either because they are not satisfied with the wages, or there is problem with your working condition. Most important, there could be relationship problem with either the management or the superior, or many times with the co-workers. Many times if there are some internal rate dispute, fights, etc. Also, some quality workers may leave because they find that your organization is not grooming them well, it is not providing good training facilities, or they are more competent but they are not getting suitable promotional opportunities either because there is no higher positions, or because of some internal politics, etc. Also, some people may leave because they are not finding your perquisites apt. They find better perquisites in some other organization. Now, these are all controllable because employer can change this and remove these reasons, so your labor turnover rate will come down. But there are some uncontrollable reasons for which even the employer cannot do anything. Like there are many businesses where you have to lay off workers, like in case of hospitality in hotels. During off seasons, especially if the hotels are in some remote areas, in some hill stations, it is difficult to maintain the entire workforce during off season. So you have to lay off certain workers. So there are many businesses which are seasonal where you have to compulsory lay off workers at least for that off season period of time. Then at times there may be shortage of material. Now, if the raw material itself is not there, if let us say the electricity or any other facility required is not there, or let us say your final product is not having market demand, why will you produce? Why will you hire workers to produce? So in this case also, by compulsion, you have to leave the workers. Then if there is change in your plant location, many workers who are local to that particular previous location may not come along with you to the new location. So that by default, those workers will leave. Then there may be some reasons like accident or any such thing because of which the workers are now not fit for work. Disciplinary reasons, you have to remove them because they misbehaved, they were not honoring the timings, etc. And then there could be personal reasons why the worker themselves would like to leave the organizations, in which the employer also cannot do anything. Maybe ill health, death, change in residence, There may be some personal issues, family issues for which they cannot work or they cannot concentrate. And many times in case of females after marriage when they relocate. So these are some reasons why there could be labor turnover and it cannot be controlled even by the employers because he is not at fault, right? Then, how does labor turnover impacts? Labor turnover generally impacts negatively. The labor turnover has a direct relation on your cost. And most important, as I mentioned at the start, we are not concerned with total labor cost. We are concerned with labor cost per unit. Now, a high labor turnover increases your labor cost per unit. How? First, it will increase your cost. What types of cost? Hiring cost, that is induction cost. Then you also have to train these new workers. Then, besides increasing cost, it is lowering your production. So if I see my cost per unit, in numerator I have total labor cost, denominator I have production units. Cost is increasing and production is going down. So automatically my per unit cost will increase. How? See, my costs are increasing, induction cost, training cost, etc. But my output is reducing. How? New workers will disturb the flow of production because they are new. They do not know my techniques, my systems. So their pace would be slow. They will not yet be able to gel with the existing workers. Further, even their efficiency is low. Obviously, they are new to the entire organization. They are new to work. So efficiency is slow. So their output is less. Further, since they are new, there would be increased wastage, breakage, because they are still learning. So all these things reduces my production, but there is extra cost whenever there is turnover. So effectively, my per unit labor cost increases, which is not a good sign. Now, again, a very important theory question. What are the different types of cost related to labor turnover? One is the preventive cost, one is the replacement cost. What is preventive cost? These are those costs, if you incur them, if you increase these costs, your labor turnover will be low. That is why they are called as preventive. Now, what are these preventive costs? They are all the controllable reason costs. Like, in order to reduce your labor turnover, you have to increase these expenses. What are these? Provide better wages, spend on better working conditions, give them incentive, provide promotional opportunities, give them training, etc. All those controllable causes, if you try to manage by increasing costs, all these costs would be preventive. Against that, you have the cost which you have to incur once the labor turnover happens. So these are the replacement costs. So if labor turnover has happened, then there is no option but you have to incur. So you have to hire new workers by spending on induction. Once they are hired, you have to do training. You have to bear the cost of losses because of breakage. Also, initially their speed is less. They are not able to match with your production. So it will lead to lower production. Lower production would lead to lower sales, and lower sales would ultimately lead to your lower profit margins or lower profit. So effectively new workers will also lead to decrease in profit because of reduction in production and sales. So these are the replacement costs. Now, interestingly, these both costs are inversely related. Higher you spend on preventive, lower will be the turnover, lower you will require to spend on replacement. Lesser you spend on preventive, higher would be the labor turnover, higher you will have to spend on the replacement cost. Next is, now again theory, how can you control or avoid labor turnover? Simply by working on whatever could be controlled. So provide better working conditions, ensure that you have a proper remuneration system and also incentive system. Also provide them good opportunities for growth and promotion. This is interesting. Normally, we conduct interviews when we are hiring. Try to conduct exit interview to understand that, okay, Baba, you are leaving the organization, no problem. Now, this is generally the role of the HR. They will sit and discuss. First, they will try to convince you not to leave. But once you are 100% sure you are leaving, they will try to find out the causes why you are leaving, so that if the causes are known, the organization can take corrective action. Most important, many good organizations have this grievance cell where you can go and put your grievance. It may be against another coworker or some superior or anybody. and the people in that grievance cell, they will check it and they will take corrective action so that before you leave, your problem is solved. So it may happen that you may not leave. Then try to work on improving relations. This can be done by various different things. And also try to establish a joint committee, maybe like in this grievance cell and all. Make a joint committee where you will take representation from workers also, and obviously management is there. This will help in giving the confidence to the workers that whatever decisions are taken by joint committee will always be neutral and it will not be biased towards the employer. So this committee will be taking all decisions relating to labor. So these are some important points about labor turnover. Anybody has any questions on this, please ask so that I can go to the next topic. Lalit, beta, separation method is simple. Separation method is जितने workers आपको छोड़ के गए, आपसे चले गए, या आपने उनको निकाल दिया, those are called as separation. In English we say number of workers left, छोड़ के चले गए, उसी का दूसरा word है separation. So whoever has left, that is numerator figure, that is separation, divided by average into 100 is the formula. Fine. Yes. Anybody else has any questions on the concept of labor turnover? No? Another important concept. Important concept is, what is overtime? Now this is interesting. Overtime simply means working beyond the normal working hours. But the question is, what is normal working hours? Now that depends upon whether Factories Act is applicable. So Factories Act applicable? Not applicable. If Factories Act is not applicable, like to CEO offices, Factories Act is not applicable. In that particular case, what will be normal working hours? Normal working hours mean the working hours fixed as per your salary agreement. So there would be some salary contract. In that they have already mentioned that this is going to be your working hours. Anything above the working hours fixed would be overtime, and working hours fixed by the employer would be considered as normal. It may be 8 hours, it may be 10 hours, or it may be on weekly basis, whatever. If Factories Act is applicable, then you have to find out overtime by comparing it with normal hours. What is the normal hours provided in Factories Act? Factories Act says normal hour, if you are going by per day basis, it is 9 per day. If you are going by weekly basis, it is 48 on weekly basis. So daily, if you exceed 9 hours, whatever extra time you have worked is overtime. If weekly you are computing, then if you exceed 48 hours, whatever is the excess above 48, that will be overtime. See, Aditya is asking whether we need to avoid labor turnover when it comes to new recruitment or resulting from expansion. Obviously, no, that we need not avoid. Na? Avoiding is mainly the separation part, not the incoming part. Nitish sir, is induction hiring similar? Yes. Hiring is the first step in induction. So you, like if you have seen the 3 Idiot movies, at the end, there was an interview. And in that interview, the interviewers, they ask questions, they twist and turn, and then they select the employees. That is the whole induction process, which starts with conducting interviews, right? And generally big companies, they hire special teams or experts who do the induction, because induction, that is identifying the right person for your work, is a very specialized job. So they spent on that, right? Okay. So what is overtime? Working beyond normal working hours. Normal working hours can be 2, either as per Factories Act, within Factories Act also daily basis or weekly basis. And if Factories Act is not applicable, then whatever time is fixed by the employer. Now, what is important is, if you are working overtime, let us say 8 hours is normal. Factories Act is not applicable. So as per employer, the 8 hours is fixed, and you work for 10 hours. Then how your wages is computed? For 8 hours, your wages is computing by taking the normal wage rate, and for 2 hours, the wages is computed by taking the overtime wage rate. Now let us say normal wage rate is rupees 100 per hour. So you will be paid 800 for the 8 hours you have worked. But for overtime, you have to be paid extra. Now, how much extra would be paid will again depend upon whether Factories Act is applicable or not applicable. If Factories Act is applicable, it says overtime rate is double the normal rate. So Factories Act will say pay 200 per hour for the overtime period. But in my example, Factories Act is not applicable. Then how will you determine the overtime rate? The employer or your salary contracts determine the overtime rate. So let us say in my example, the overtime rate fixes 175 per hour. So here 350. So your total wages is 1150. So for normal hours, normal rate. For overtime hours, overtime rate. I hope this is clear. Somebody is asking, sir, how this overtime cost is charged in small firms or service sector entities. Omkar, how this overtime cost is charged? See, charging, if you are actually mean by charging and not by calculating, then charging, as we discussed earlier, you find out the charging rate. How do you find out the charging rate? In numerator, you take the total labor cost. In total labor cost, you will take this. Again, when you will take this, if this is expected in the beginning, when this is expected in the beginning, we are going to study in theory where working overtime is expected or normal. Then you know that I am always shortage of labor because in my area, skilled workers are not there. I always work overtime. And since I work overtime, I always pay overtime, extra charges. So in that case, you will consider this as your total labor cost and divide it by the normal hours. So automatically the overtime extra charges are including in your labor charging rate. But this will happen only if the overtime is worked normally. We are going to see that. Omkar, I hope I could answer you. Nayan says how to check Factories Act applicable better. You have to go to Factories Act. In fact, now it will be replaced very soon by the Labor Code. In that, they have given certain criteria where that particular Factories Act and now the Labor Code would be applicable. And accordingly, if you fit in those, like the minimum number of workers, the nature of work, etc., and accordingly, you decide whether Factories Act is applicable or not. Mithun, sir, will the overtime wages affect finished product price? Again, if you're asking about price, because you have mixed two things, I believe. So if you're asking about price, Mithun, obviously, if overtime is a regular feature, I will be including the overtime cost in my charging price. As I just explained, my per unit price or cost will increase. Now further, Mithun is asking, or it will be compromised by giving more output, which leads to more sales. So I think now, Mithun, you are talking about quality. That depends whether you have better control system, whether supervision system is good, then maybe even working overtime may not affect your quality. We'll discuss that when we come to theory. Ramya, sir, how preventive and replacement costs are interconnected with each other? Ramya, I think you are not paying attention. I already explained preventive and replacement are inversely related. The more you spend preventive, the less would be replacement, and vice versa. Pay attention, brother. Okay. Now moving ahead to overtime. Now here already what I explained above is given here. Now I come to the most important theory part. Why is overtime worked and what is the treatment of overtime in costing? Now remember one thing, when we are talking about treatment, we are not talking about treatment of 175. I repeat, I am not talking about treatment of 175. What is 175? It is the overtime rate. Overtime rate is made up of two things. One is the normal rate, which is 100, and the extra, which is called as the premium, which in my example is 75. So if my overtime rate is 175, it is made up of two parts. The normal rate, anyways, I have to pay you normal 100 rupees. But because of overtime, I have to pay you something extra, which in my example is 75, which is called as a premium. So now we have to check where this premium will be charged. So when I'm charging this labor cost of 1150, I'm not worried about charging the normal cost. What is normal cost? 10 hours I have worked into 100. So out of this, normal is 1000, which is this 10 hours total, 10 hours at the normal rate. So this 1000 will be charged where the 10 hours are used as per time booking. But my question is, when I work extra these 2 hours for which I paid at the rate of 75 extra, which is the premium, I have also paid for these 2 hours at the rate of 75 extra. So I've paid this 150 extra, which is the premium. So my total 1150 wages is made up of two parts. One is the normal wages and one is the premium, which I've paid for overtime. Now we are going to discuss where this premium will be charged. Again, try to figure out yourself. So left side is the reason, right side, don't look. Try to figure out yourself what could be the answer. So I start from here. If my reason of working overtime is abnormal, what could be the abnormal reason? There was strike in my factory, or there were floods during these rainy seasons. Because of all these reasons, my factory was shut down for abnormal reasons. And when I restarted to complete the orders, I worked overtime. In such cases, the overtime is worked for abnormal reasons. Whatever premium you have paid will not be considered as part of any product cost. It will go to P&L because overtime is being worked for abnormal reasons. Second could be if I'm working overtime on special request of customer. So let us say my normal time is 8 to 4. I will be closing my office at 4 o'clock. However, now since you all know this is the peak period of we chartered accountants who are into taxation practice, that they have to do tax audit, that is an income tax audit, last 80th of September. Now some client comes and request, sir, I want you to do my audit and do my uploading. I'll say, sorry, my normal timing is over, I'm closing now. He will say, no sir, whatever are your charges, I'm ready to bear, but please do it on emergency basis. Please specifically do it for me. Now, in this example, if I'm working those overtime 2 hours specifically for this client on his request, then I will say, okay, Baba, see, for this 2 hours extra, which I'm working exclusively for you on your special request, I will be incurring that 75 rupees per hour extra, that is 150 rupees extra. That 75 per hour, that is 150 rupees, will be charged to that customer only. So I will be charging at the rate of 100 to all customers, including this one also. Plus that extra 75 per hour, I will be charging only to this customer because I worked extra for this customer. So if I'm working overtime on the special request of the customer, only that customer will be charged with that overtime rate, and all others will be charged at the normal rate. So in short, premium will be charged only to that customer. Another reason could be if I am generally having shortage of labor because the skill I require is not available. So even though I require 20 workers, I am working with 15 workers, let us say. Now, if I'm working with 15 workers instead of 20, so my production requirement is of 20 workers, but I'm managing with 15. So obviously what will happen? The problem will be I will have to ask these 15 workers to regularly work overtime so that they can complete the work of 20 workers. Now, if that is the case, working overtime becomes a normal phenomenon, which I will be expecting at the start of the year also that, okay, I'll be working overtime. In such a case, I will increase my charging rate. Charging rate is the rate at which I do costing. How? In my total labor cost, I will include the premium also and divided by my hours. So automatically my charging rate will become 115. So the total labor cost, which includes the overtime premium, I'll divide it by hours. So automatically my charging rate will increase. And once this charging rate increases, automatically when I charge all the products with this particular rate or all the customers with this particular rate, effectively what is happening? My premium is getting charged to all the customers, all the products, because overtime is a normal phenomenon for me. Another reason could be, like it happens in many cases, I'm working overtime to meet some workload or production program. Generally, this happens like suddenly I've got some order, or not suddenly some order, but it is in general I have some extra workload. So to cover up that workload, or if let us say my business is having its peak period of season, in such cases when I work overtime, which is occasionally, then whatever extra I'm paying for the overtime premium, that will be transferred to overheads. I will charge my products with the normal rate, and whatever premium 75 into 2 hours I have paid, that I will be adding to my overheads cost. And the last reason could be where overtime is worked because of fault of some other department. So let us say my work is interconnected. Department 1, Department 2, Department 3, Department 4. Now, 1, whatever it does, will go to 2. 2 will work on that further, will go to 3. Now, let us say when the work reaches 3, while the Department 3 is doing its work, it find out that there is some mistake, there is some fault in the work of 1 or 2. Now, instead of sending it back to them, the Department 3 itself rectifies that and starts its work. But by doing this, it has to spend extra time. So it sits extra time overtime to complete that work. Now, it has worked overtime because there was fault in the work done by the previous department. So what it will do, it will charge the premium to the department in fault. It will recover it from them. So it will be treated as cost of that department. So this is how overtime premium is treated in costing. This is a very interesting and important theory part relating to overtime and overtime premium, right? So let me take your queries. Tambeshwari asks, sir, who is decide rate? I did not get your question. Nitish says, sir, fault of another department. But I explained, let us say department 1 is doing the basic accounting and then I'm doing return or income tax calculation. If accounting is wrong, income tax calculation is going wrong. So when the work comes to the second department who is going to do income tax calculation, while doing the calculation, it finds that there are mistakes in accounting. So instead of sending the work back to the accounting department, the income tax calculation department is doing the accounting work also. But because it is doing that work, it is spending more time to complete that job. So whatever it is working extra time on that job, the expenses are charged to the accounting department because of the fault of accounting department, the tax computation department has to work more. Nitish, I hope I explained. Kambeshwar, you may ask your doubts. I did not understand your question. Ramya is asking, sir, overtime premium is fixed or variable? See, Ramya, overtime premium is the rate at which I'll be paying extra if you have worked extra, that is beyond the normal hours. And this rate is generally decided at the start of the year, or it may be revised in between the year depending upon my labor policies. So overtime premium per hour is fixed. But the more you work overtime, the more you will get the premium. So to that extent, the total premium will vary depending upon how much extra any worker has worked. So the per hour premium rate or the overtime rate is fixed because it is per hour, which is fixed. And the total amount depends upon how much extra you have worked. So that portion will always be variable. Is this clear, students? So we can stop here. We have covered a major part of labor chapter. Whatever is left out, that we'll be discussing tomorrow. So anybody has any questions relating to whatever we have discussed, you may please raise that. We have few minutes. We can cover the questions now so that we can close our topic completely for the day. 175 is 75. Who is decide premium? Tambeshwari, I think you did not get my example. My wage rate normally is 100 per hour. But I have also committed that if you work overtime, I'll pay extra, which is 175. Now, if my normal wage rate is 100 and for working overtime, I'm paying 175. So automatically the 75, which I'm paying extra is the premium. So premium is always what is extra, which is over and above the regular one. That is what we call as premium in any case also. So if my normal rate is 100 and I'm paying you 175, automatically beta 75 will become the premium. Yes, Sai. Sai Charan. Sai, you raise your hand, beta.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Sai.
In case of normal loss and abnormal loss, usually as you explained, normal loss will be charged for the products and it will be charged from the customers, and abnormal loss will be charged to P&L and it will be eating our profits, right, sir?
Correct.
If I am let me, if nowadays the startups are booming up, if I am making a startup and in the early stages it will be really tough for an enterprise to survive, right, sir? Is there any scenario where that is abnormal loss also be allowed to charge to the price and charge from the customers so that it will help me to survive my business?
Understand this, Sai. See, if I charge abnormal loss to my customer, let us assume what you are saying happens. What will happen? My cost or price of my product will increase, right? Will my
Yes.
customer pay for that extra? See, you are the customer. Till date, I was selling you tomato sauce made by my company at rupees 200 per kg. Suddenly today I come and tell you, sorry, Sai, today the tomato ketchup which I am selling you will cost you 220. You will answer, no problem. Have you increased quantity? I will say no. Have you added some additional flavor or some additional concept? I will say no. Then I'll answer, sir, then why have you increased the cost or price? I'll say, because of my mistakes or not paying much attention, I wasted more material. That extra loss I am recovering from. What will you do, Sai? You will go to some competitor and buy from there. So in fact, I'll lose the entire business. So to recover that extra 20, I will lose the business of 200, which will be more disastrous. That is why the costing has made this principle or a rule that you will not charge abnormal, because it is something which is related to you, your mistake, your inefficiency. If you pass on to customer, it would be disastrous because your price will increase. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, Ramchandra is asking, sir, does labor turnover affect only a particular company as we saw, or the industry in general shall be affected, and does it impact economy? See, Ramchandra, your question is too wide. See, labor turnover is not good for anyone. From industry perspective, it is not good because it increases cost. Even from the economy perspective, it is not good because it shows that the workers are not satisfied, or many times they are remaining idle because, see, the moment you leave, it is not necessary you'll get a job. So from the company perspective, from the economy perspective, it is not good. Now, coming to your question that who will be affected, it is everyone who is affected. So that particular company is affected. In general, let us say the textile industry in general is facing labor turnover. Obviously, the entire industry is affected because the total output of the industry, obviously the total output of the country and economy, everything goes down. So labor turnover, whether it is per person or it is per industry, everything is affected, and it is affected always negatively. Fine. Yes. Any further questions, students? Here also, I don't find any significant question. Aisha has asked, accounting for inventory is not covered in material costing. See, accounting is covered in the entire subject of cost accounting. Costing is only for charging. And the accounting part, that is debit, credit, or maintaining costs, is part of cost accounting, Aisha. Fine? Great. Any further questions, students? No? Super. So we conclude our today's session. We catch up again day after tomorrow for completing this chapter. Okay? Thank you. Take care. Please study the remaining chapter and be prepared with your doubts for the next session. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Yes. Same. Thank you.